Wittgenstein would say, "You don't understand women at all." She says, "I'm fine," but storms out of the room. She asks, "Do you think I look fat?" And you answer honestly. She tells you about her problems and gets mad when you solve them. Philosopher Ludwig Wittgenstein knew exactly why you keep failing these tests you didn't know you were taking. The language trap. She comes home upset and says, "My boss was horrible today." You immediately respond, "Have you considered talking to HR about this?" Her face changes. She says, "Never mind," and walks away. You're confused because you just offered helpful advice. You both spoke English, but you weren't speaking the same language. Wittgenstein discovered that words don't have fixed meanings. They mean different things depending on the language game being played. Every conversation is actually a game with hidden rules that most people never realize exist. Many women learn language games focused on connection and emotional sharing. Most men learn language games focused on problem solving and information exchange. When you play by your rules in her game, communication breaks down completely. You think you're being helpful. She thinks you're not listening. Today, you'll learn the specific language games that confuse most men. Why "I'm fine" doesn't mean fine, and how to decode what's really being communicated instead of just hearing the words. This isn't about women being complicated. It's about recognizing when someone is playing a different communication game than you are. The 3 games you're losing. She's clearly upset but says, "I'm fine." You hear the words "fine" and move on with your day. Later, she's angry that you didn't notice something was wrong. You think, "She lied to me." But she wasn't lying. She was playing a different language game. In many female communication patterns, "I'm fine," when you're obviously not fine, means, "I'm upset, but I need you to care enough to notice and gently ask what's wrong." It's a test of emotional attention. She's checking if you're paying attention to her emotional state or just her words. Your language game says words mean what they mean. Her language game says context and emotion matter more than literal words. When you take "I'm fine" at face value, you fail the emotional attention test without knowing there was a test. But that's just the beginning. She tells you about her stressful day at work. You listen for 2 minutes, then offer 3 solutions. She gets frustrated and says, "You're not listening to me." You think, "I was literally listening and trying to help." She thinks, "He just wants to fix me and move on." The disconnect happens because you're playing the solution game. Someone shares a problem. You solve it. Problem solved. She's playing the connection game. She's not broken and doesn't need fixing. She wants to feel understood and emotionally supported. Wittgenstein would say, "You're using language to transfer information." She's using language to create emotional connection. Both are valid uses of language. But when you solve problems she wants to share feelings about, the communication breaks down. Then there's the question trap. She asks, "Do you think I look fat in this?" You answer honestly based on visual assessment. She gets upset. You think, "She asked a direct question. I gave a direct answer." But she wasn't asking for visual analysis. The real question was often, "Do you find me attractive and desirable?" Or, "I'm feeling insecure about my appearance and need reassurance." In her language game, many questions aren't requests for information. They're requests for emotional support disguised as information questions. When you answer the surface question instead of the underlying need, you miss what she was actually asking for. These games aren't manipulation. They're different ways of communicating that assume you'll read between the lines instead of just reading the line. Wittgenstein's decoding system. Wittgenstein discovered that everyone has private inner experiences, but we have to use shared language to communicate them. Many women grew up learning that direct confrontation or direct need stating was discouraged or punished. So they developed indirect ways to communicate needs and feelings. This created a communication style where emotional information gets embedded in context, tone, and subtext rather than stated directly. It's not more complicated than male communication. It's just differently complex. Wittgenstein taught that meaning comes from context of use, not dictionary definitions. When she says do whatever you want about dinner plans while looking stressed, the context tells you more than the content. Content. Choose whatever you prefer. Context. I'm overwhelmed and need you to take care of this decision for us. Male communication often focuses on content, what was literally said. Female communication often focuses on context, the situation, emotional state, and relationship dynamics. Wittgenstein would say that indirect communication is often a test of whether you care enough to pay attention to someone's emotional world, not just their words. When she hints instead of stating directly, she's often checking. Is he emotionally tuned into me or just waiting for his turn to talk? Direct communication says, I need emotional support right now. Indirect communication shares something emotional and sees if you respond with support or solutions. The indirect version tests whether you naturally offer emotional support or whether you only give it when directly requested. So how do you decode this? Before responding to what she said, notice what she's feeling. I had such a terrible day. The feeling is overwhelmed, frustrated, needing support. I'm fine, while clearly upset. The feeling is hurt, wanting you to notice and care. Do you think this dress looks good? The feeling is insecure, wanting reassurance. Respond to the emotion first, then the content if needed. Instead of immediately problem solving, try, that sounds really hard, or you seem upset, what's going on? When you're unsure whether she wants solutions or support, it's okay to ask directly. Do you want me to help you think through this, or do you just want me to listen and understand how you're feeling? This shows you recognize there are different ways to be helpful, and you want to be helpful in the way that actually helps her. The key is a two-step response. First, acknowledge the feeling or experience. Second, offer help if appropriate. Wrong approach. Have you tried talking to your boss? Right approach. That sounds really frustrating. Do you want to talk through what happened? This works because it shows you heard her emotional experience before trying to fix her practical problem. When her words and her emotional state don't match, pay attention to the emotional state. I'm fine, plus upset body language, means she's not fine, but doesn't feel safe or ready to discuss it directly yet. Try. You said you're fine, but you seem upset. I'm here if you want to talk about it. This acknowledges both her words and her emotional state. Before responding to any communication, ask yourself, what language game is being played here? Information sharing game? Problem solving game? Emotional connection game? Reassurance seeking game? Match your response to the game being played, not the game you prefer to play. What changes? When you start responding to emotional communication instead of just literal communication, something powerful happens. She stops feeling like you're emotionally oblivious. You stop feeling like she's being unnecessarily complicated. Both of you start feeling heard and understood in the ways that matter to each of you. Most relationship fights aren't about the surface issue. They're about feeling misunderstood or unheard. When you understand what she's really communicating, you can respond to her actual needs instead of having arguments about word choices. "You never help with dishes" isn't usually about dishwashing frequency. It's usually about feeling like she's carrying too much of the household burden. Respond to the real issue. "It sounds like you're feeling overwhelmed. How can we better share the household work?" instead of debating your dishwashing track record. Women who feel consistently understood and heard often become more direct over time. Indirect communication is often a safety mechanism. When direct communication feels safe and effective, the need for indirectness decreases. Take Mike, who used to get frustrated every time his girlfriend was upset, but wouldn't directly say what was wrong. Once he learned to notice her emotional state and respond supportively, she started communicating more directly because she felt safe being vulnerable with him. Understanding someone's communication style shows that you care enough to learn how they think and feel. Women are attracted to men who can navigate emotional complexity skillfully, not just men who can solve practical problems. The ability to decode indirect communication and respond appropriately is a rare and valuable relationship skill. Your communication upgrade. Understanding female communication isn't about cracking a mysterious code. It's about recognizing that different people learn different language games for expressing their inner worlds. You can keep assuming everyone communicates exactly like you do and getting frustrated when your responses miss the mark. Or you can learn to recognize different communication styles and respond to what people actually need instead of just what they literally said. The smartest men aren't those who demand everyone communicate directly. They're those who can speak multiple language games and connect with people in ways that work for them. If understanding the psychology behind communication differences helped you decode these patterns, you'll love the other insights we share at Keys to the Psyche. We break down the hidden patterns behind human behavior every week. Hit subscribe so you don't miss the psychological frameworks that change how you understand people. Your next conversation with a woman is practice time. Before responding, ask yourself, what language game is she playing, and what does she actually need from me? Choose to understand the game, not just the words.